Hi, my name's Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about Cosi Fan Tutte by Mozart, and I'd like to go through this famous opera, really pulling it apart a little bit in order to understand the structure of this work in terms of its plot, in terms of how the acts are broken up, and in terms of the arias and ensembles within those scenes. Now, Mozart wrote this in 1789. Again with Lorenzo da Ponte as the librettist, their final collaboration after the marriage of Figaro and Don Giovanni, and it was first performed in the Vienna Burgtheater in January the 26th, 1790. And it's one of those works by Mozart which has truly helped build this public perception of Mozart as a sublime genius, because it is an incredibly beautiful work, notable for its number and its quality of its ensembles, but it's also in the past been kind of overlooked because of the supposed risque nature of the story, which probably offended those in the 19th century more than it would have done in Mozart's time or indeed in our time. But I guess if you could sum up the story, it's a humorous look at the unfaithful tendencies of the human heart. It really is about two couples who, in rather unlikely circumstances, have their partners switched, and as a result of a wager and all kinds of mayhem ensues, but everything's sorted out in the end, in true opera buffa style. The work's in 2 acts, and but you can subdivide each of the acts into 4 scenes. But at the beginning, we've got this rather marvellous overture. We have this rather grand, slow introduction. Those chords here are sung later on by Don Alfonso. Cosi fan, something like that. You'll hear it later on near the end of the 2nd act. Then we come to the overture proper, I guess, which is the sonata form argument. It's a monothematic sonata form argument. What does that mean? It means that in the 1st and 2nd subjects are made up of the same tunes, the same themes. The key changes, but the ideas remain the same. We begin with this very quick idea. Just explodes onto the stage, doesn't it? Then we have a more lyrical idea tossed around the winds. That kind of thing. Very charming. Then we come to a transition. And then eventually that takes us to that flowing woodwind idea again, this time in the dominant key, G major, for the 2nd subject group. Then we have a development, very short but very expressive, based on that idea. Passes through the different keys. It's just really like a sequence, really, going through the keys before, sure enough, we go back to the first subject for the recapitulation, which, remember, is the same tune in both subject groups. But we don't go back to the tonic, we go back to the subdominant. We have a transition again, longer this time, which begins with that da 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 rhythm. We then finally have that tune in the tonic for the second subject group, and we have a rousing coda based on that initial idea at the Exposition, what we might call a Mannheim skyrocket. This brings this short but marvellous overture to a close. And we're into the first act. In Act 1, which we can divide into 4 scenes, basically revolves around a wager, and this wager being put into action. You can divide this act into 4 scenes. The first scene is in a coffee shop, and we have Ferrando and Guillermo, who are both officers in the army, and we have an older friend, Don Alfonso, who is the schemer in this opera. He's the worldly wise, older, cynical one who thinks that women, no matter how much they say they love their beaux, they will stray. Cosi Fan Tutte, all women are like that. Yes, that sounds very sexist, doesn't it? I saw a recent production where they changed that, it was in English, and they changed that to all people are like that. But yeah, anyway, so this wager is set up in this first scene of the first act. And this scene is made up of 3 trios between the men. We begin with Ferrando and Guglielmo just singing of their love for Dorabella and Fiordaligi, respectively. And we begin with this idea. Something like that. And then Ferrando comes in. La mi Dorabella, che pace non è, che pace non è. And then Guillermo comes in singing of his love for Fiordaligi. Don Alfonso suggests that their women will stray in the right circumstances. The boys don't like this, they threaten him with a duel. In the next trio, Don Alfonso says, women's fidelity is like the Arabian phoenix. Everyone's heard of it, but no one's seen it. And that trio opens like this. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. Don Alfonso offers a wager to prove the infidelity of Dorabella and Fiordaligi, and then we have the third trio where the boys, Ferrando and Guglielmo, sing of what they're going to do with all this money they're going to win from Don Alfonso. Really stirring stuff, and Don Alfonso is kind of sniping away in the background. Then we're into the second scene of Act 1, where we meet Dorabella and Fiordiligi, the girlfriends of Ferrando and Guglielmo, and we have this beautiful duet of the two girls, which begins like this. And the two girls are looking at portraits of their lovers, singing with arduous rapture. There's an exciting close to this duet as well, in A major. They're eagerly awaiting the arrival of their lovers, but and maybe even wedding bells on the horizon. But instead Don Alfonso turns up, and he is feigning despair. Oh no, your lovers have been summoned to war in this stormy F minor. Such a short aria, full of this fake tragedy. We then come to this, the first of the quintets, which is absolutely marvellous. Ferrando and Guillermo pretend to take leave of their lovers, but they're also quite pleased at the despair Dorabella and Fiordiligi express when they're told that they're leaving them. And it begins like this. Sento odio, E flat major. Then we have one of my favourite moments in the whole opera. The Fiordiligi and Dorabella just have this this pang of pain in their hearts. That's Mozart, I think, at his most beautiful. So during the course of this marvellous quintet, which is in multiple sections, and by the way, the structure for each of the numbers is down below in the description for those following the score closely, with bar numbers, etc. After this, we have a bit which is often cut out where Dorabella and Fiordiligi despair, and Fiordiligi threatens to kill herself with a dagger. The boys then have a duet, which is often cut, singing how they will return to their lovers. We then come to the chorus. Don Alfonso has got these people together to pretend that they're singing, they're summoning the boys away to war, and the chorus goes like this. A bit later on in the chorus we have, which reminds me of the opening of the Jupiter Symphony. After this chorus we have another beautiful quintet where the boys are kind of retreating from their lovers, almost in tiptoes it seems. And it's stunning how the voices come in here, all the principals. Isn't that marvellous? So many beautiful ensembles in this opera. Then we go back to the chorus again, and we then probably have the most famous part of the whole opera, the terzatino, the trio between Fiordiligi, Dorabella and Don Alfonso as the two boys are sailing away to war, or supposedly to war. Soave sia il vento. And this is so beautiful. We have the kind of the shimmering waves in the violins. Just wonderful, isn't it? And then we have these rather dissonant chords a bit later on. Really kind of again give that kind of pain, that longing from the heart. There. That. We're then into the third scene, and it's here that Don Alfonso's plan is put into place for this wager. The boys return in disguise, dressed as Albanians, these exotic foreigners, and they're trying to woo their friend's lover. So Ferrando's going for Fiordiligi and Guillermo's going for Dorabella. And we're introduced to Despina here as well. Despina's like the stock kind of soubrette character in this opera, the kind of maid who Don Alfonso gets on board to help him in his plan, although she doesn't actually know at this point that the Albanians are Ferrando and Guillermo. But she's very happy for the girls to play around while their lovers are supposedly away. At the beginning of this this scene, we have Dorabella's first aria, Smanie implacabili. She seems particularly grief-stricken about Ferrando's departure. And E flat major. Really exciting aria in binary form with a coda. Many of the arias actually in this opera are in binary form. Despina is not very sympathetic, and she's just saying that, you know, it's your time to enjoy yourselves. She says, you know, they should seek solace in other lovers. Soldiers aren't faithful anyway, which may have had some resonances at the when this opera was performed in the late 18th century, as there were so many soldiers in Vienna at that time. Which eventually settles into F major with these cheeky grace notes in the winds. And then after Don Alfonso gets Despina on board, we have the first of the sextets, the whole cast together in this, you know, masterpiece of farce, of tension, of humour. Ferrando and Guillermo, now as the Albanians arrive, and they create mayhem amongst Dorabella and Fiordaligi. Despite their best efforts, the girls are resistant, and they're actually furious that these strange men have turned up in their lovers' absence. We begin with this mock noble theme. The music gets quicker. And then the music gets even quicker, molto allegro. And the whole kind of chaotic situation comes to a head. Really thrilling and exciting stuff. And the boys just carry on. Even in the next recitative, they're still trying their luck. But the girls remain steadfast for now. It's now Fiordaligi's turn to have a great aria. Come scoglio, like a stone, she will remain faithful to Guillermo. And apparently Mozart disliked Adriana Ferrarese del Bene, the lady who sang Fiordaligi at the premiere. And she had this mannerism where she'd raise her head and drop her chin for high and low notes. So apparently Mozart deliberately put these leaps in this aria from high to low to make her look like her head was bobbing like a chicken. That's the story. Anyway, it begins in a rather grand way with this introduction in B flat major. Before eventually we settle down into the allegro. Then in the woodwinds. We have a contrasting section as well, a B section. And after the reprise to the A section, we have an exciting coda with some vocal fireworks with these exciting triplets before this imposing aria finishes. And now we have Guillermo's first aria, Occhietti Vezzosi. And here he just expresses how happy he is with the plan so far. Fiordaligi is resisting the charms of Ferrando in disguise, so he's very happy. And we have this delightful melody to begin with in the introduction, G major. He starts singing. Etc. A very slight aria in the grand scheme of things, but delightful. And then we have our fifth trio of the opera, where Ferrando and Guillermo are teasing Don Alfonso. They think they're winning. We hear plenty of ha 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 as they laugh in his face. But Don Alfonso reminds them it's not over yet, and Ferrando now has his first aria with this beautiful song of love. The joys of love. He praises the joys of love. A real tenor showpiece Un'ora amorosa. A beautiful outpouring of melody. Then Don Alfonso and Despina get together to plot again, and we're in to the finale of this beautiful act. And the finale is where Mozart really pulls out all the stops. Basically, in a desperate act of winning over the girls, the Ferrando and Guillermo, the Albanians, remember they're in disguise, attempt to commit suicide by taking some so-called poison. But then, due to Despina being disguised as Dr. Mesmer and his special resurrection machine, they are brought back to life. And despite their protestations, Dorabella and Fiordiligi are something's changed in them. They're beginning to soften a little bit, one suspects. Now at the beginning we have a duet, again, Fiordiligi and Dorabella, and they're kind of bemoaning their fate. And I love the way this opens. There's these beautiful scales here in the woodwinds. D major. We have these beautiful scales. And then they sing in such a beautiful way, the two leads. I just love this, so beautiful. Then we have the third quintet with the boys threatening death. Music gets very kind of dramatic and mercurial, just shifts all the time. And Don Alfonso pretends to try to stop them. And then Despina turns up. Remember, in disguise as the doctor, Dr. Mesmer. G major, 3/4. Etc. The boys are attached to the doctor's resuscitation machine. They're brought back to life. Dove son? Che loco è questo? And no sooner as they're brought back to life, they carry on their attempts to woo the sisters, but the wrong sisters, if you know what I mean. And we leave the act with the girls protesting wildly at the advances of the Albanians. And the boys are still confident, but Don Alfonso and Despina seem to think that their charms are beginning to work on the girls. And we have this great close to this mighty scene. In Act 2, things were eventually resolved after much confusion and much heartache. Again, like Act 1, you can break it into 4 scenes. And in the first scene, Despina, the maid, is working on the girls, trying to persuade them to give in to the temptation to fall in love with these Albanians, which of course are their lovers in disguise, but switched round. And in Despina's second aria, she sings that even a 15-year-old girl can play around with love. So what's stopping these ladies? G major again. Then we have this delightfully skipping section. Etc. And they've done by Despina, the girls finally decide to have a little bit of fun. Dorabella decides on the dark-haired one, Guillermo, who of course is Fiordaligi's lover, and Fiordaligi will be Ferrando, the blonde-haired one. So they swapped here, and we have another duet. Prondero quel brunettino. B flat major. And then the scene ends with Don Alfonso inviting the girls into the garden for an amazing sight. And we're into scene 2. And it's here that the men's assault on the girls' fidelity intensifies. And we have this duet from the boys as they serenade the sisters. E flat major. Boom, boom, boom. Dum, dum, dum. Boom, boom, boom. And we have this lovely moment, you know, a bit like the squeeze box analogy used in Amadeus, you know, the play in the film, which Salieri says. We have this gorgeous moment where the clarinets are really delightful. It's so charming. Then the boys start their lovely serenade. Then we have a quartet. D major. Don Alfonso and Despina are pleased that their plan seems to be going so swimmingly, and they depart from the others. And then the couples go off together. Fiordaligi and Ferrando, Dorabella and Guliemo. And it's here that Dorabella starts to fall for Guillermo, and he gives Dorabella a golden chain with a heart. and she gives a locket back in return. F major. Dorabella comes in. Then in some recitative, Ferrando tries his luck with Fiordiligi, and he almost succeeds, but she resists him. And then we're into Fiordiligi's second aria. She reproaches herself for almost falling into temptation. And in her aria she begs for her absent lover's forgiveness. Per pietà, ben mio. I recently saw this, and she was, as she's singing this, she's going around the Ferris wheel. Such a great piece of staging. We have a section where it gets quicker. The horns in this aria are fantastic. Listen out for the horns. They've got some brilliant parts. Now it's the boy's turn to suffer from the hardships of love, because although Ferrando tells Guillermo that Fiordiligi rejected his advances, sadly Guillermo can't say the same to Ferrando. Dorabella is very much besotted with him, and he shows Ferrando the locket, and Ferrando is devastated. But then Guillermo tries to raise his Ferrando's spirits with this second aria in G major. Ferrando's deeply wounded, but he still loves Dorabella whatever happens, and he sings this his second aria at C minor. Scene 3, it's Fiordiligi's turn to crumble. It was Dorabella first, now Fiordiligi, and she finally succumbs to Ferrando's charms. And it's Guillermo's turn to be utterly devastated. And it seems that Don Alfonso is vindicated in his cynical view that all women are like that. Cosi Fan Tutte. Now to begin with, Dorabella admits to Fiordiligi her love for Guillermo, and Fiordiligi's shocked, and but in Dorabella's second aria, E amore con l'agioncello, she reveals she really has become Despina's disciple. She's just completely forgotten about her previous love. And in this, again, this 6/8 meter, this skipping feel to the music in B flat major. we have this. Now, being overheard by the men, Fiordaligi decides to make a great show of her fidelity to Guillermo, and she decides to follow him to the battlefront in a great show of faithfulness. But then, in another duet, Ferrando throws himself at Fiordaligi's feet, and we have... And in this multi-part duet, eventually he wins her over. And now, of course, Guillermo is devastated. He wants vengeance, but then Don Alfonso placates him. And, you know, in his Aria, Tutti accusan la donna, it's here we have the title of the opera. After all women behave like this. Or, you know, perhaps all humanity behaves like this. We've all got hearts which sometimes can be wayward. At the end of this, we have, which is quoted in the Overture, Cosi Fan Tutte. And a wedding is arranged by Despina and Don Alfonso for the new pairs of lovers. And that brings us on to the finale of this act and this extraordinary opera. Deception is revealed, and is love really true after all? Well, let's see. We begin with Despina preparing a marriage feast. C major. And then the chorus comes in, the servants are offering their congratulations. And then we have another quartet, the couples arrive to get in place for the wedding. They're in good spirits. The clarinets begin that tune. Lots of great clarinet lines as you'd expect for Mozart at this time. Guillermo is still a little bitter about the whole thing. This is like a theme and variations, really. We keep hearing the same melody over and over again. Each time we hear it, it becomes more and more elaborated upon. with these gorgeous intertwining vocal parts. Then Don Alfonso announces the arrival of the notary, which of course is the Spina in disguise again. And then just as they're going to get married, lo and behold, we hear the soldiers coming back with that chorus again. Remember from the first act? Oh no, what they're going to do? The sisters are beside themselves in worry, in shame, in shock. They try to hide the notary and the Albanians, and Ferrando and Guillermo turn up now with their disguises removed. Spina says she's just come back from a fancy dress ball, that's why she's dressed like that. And then they discover the marriage contract, the boys. They are betrayed. The sisters don't know what to do, they're confused, but then finally Don Alfonso confesses his role in the deception. And then we reach the end. Fidelity is sworn, but certainly not to be tested again. And we have this joyous end to this extraordinary opera. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and please click like and subscribe. And if you have any other pieces you'd like me to look at, other operas or symphonies, whatever it might be, please put them in the comments below. Cheerio. Bye.